Wolfgang Spohn is a distinguished philosopher at the University of Konstanz in Germany. He is the noted author of the book The Laws of Belief, which presents an argument for systematically ranking theories based on probability. For the work in this book, Professor Spohn received the Lakatos Award for 2012, the most prestigious academic prize in philosophy of science, awarded by the London School of Economics. Wolfgang, your book, The Laws of Belief, involves dynamic laws of belief by way of ranking theory. Give us an overview of the project and the aims of the book and how you argue about ranking theories in truth.
The first thing to explain to the readers or to the listeners, I mean, the laws of belief, that might be suggest that the book is about religious belief, but of course it isn't at all. Yeah, it's about our normal empirical belief and is no philosophy of religion at all. Yeah? But it's the belief we have in everyday life and we have in science and so on. And there it is important, really important, to have a dynamic theory, and perhaps and that sounds ambitious. So what could that mean, a dynamic theory? But you really have, I mean, to think perhaps of the following comparison. I mean, you have your great old Isaac Newton. What was his achievement? He had a dynamic theory of motion. Yeah? So there are things have a place, and they move. That is, they change their place. And Newton invented the laws how things change their place, how they move around, and how they change their motion. Yeah? And there's the famous second law of Newton, which says how that works. I mean, there are forces, and the forces, they bring about the change of motion according to Newton's second law. And the very same holds for our beliefs. I mean, what moves our beliefs? I mean, a lot of things, of course. I mean, we are simply forgetful, yeah. And then maybe alcohol moves our beliefs. It's often said that under the influence of alcohol, we get more optimistic, yeah? And that is in a way a change of belief. Yeah? Now, of course, philosophy can't say anything about these kinds of changes. Yeah? I mean, that's psychology or medicine or whatever. But the main force which changes our beliefs is, of course, experience. I mean, we experience things. They may be unexpected or they may be expected. In any way, in any case, we learn from experience. And how that goes, I mean, that's really a topic also for philosophers. So the experiences are the forces, and the forces, and those forces, the experience, change our states of belief. Not the states of motion about which Newton thought, but our states of belief. And the question now is, how does that go about? What are the laws of change? Yeah? What's the analog to Newton's second law? Yeah? And that's what the book is about, in a way. So that's, I think that's a good comparison. Yeah? And maybe another important point is the following. I mean, one of the oldest problems in philosophy, in philosophical epistemology, is the problem of induction. That has become prominent through David Hume, I mean, and in particular prominent because he was a skepticist about induction. Yeah? Now, what's induction? Yeah? I mean, will it rain tomorrow or not? Yeah? Will it snow here in Konstanz the day after tomorrow, as the weather forecast has predicted? Yeah? I mean, you really don't know. I mean, to answer that question, the issue is to make an induction. Yeah? We have our experiences, we have learned a lot, but we have made only our observations. We have learned what we saw. We can't learn what we don't see. We have only learned in the past. We can't learn from the future because we can't experience the future. So the question of induction is how do we learn from our experiences? That is or to put it in grand words, how to infer our entire world picture, which is about everything, things very far away, things we have never seen, things very far in the future, but also things very far in the past, which we also have never seen. We believe there were dinosaurs, but what we see is only the old bones and not the animals. So how do we form our world picture, all our beliefs from our experiences? That's the problem of induction. Yeah. And then, of course, and really the problem is how to justify. It's not just how we do it. It's not a psychological question. It's a question about justification. How can we do it justifiably? Justify our beliefs from our experiences. So that's the old problem of induction. And Hume's skeptical answer was, oh, there is no justification. We just do it by habit or whatever, but not in any justified way. We cannot say we do it this thing is a reasonable induction and the other thing is an unreasonable induction. So, so, and what I was now, I'm talking very long, but perhaps just let me finish that first point. What has that to do with the dynamics of belief, the problem of induction? And what I would like to explain to you in the next step is that issue, the problem of induction, is really equivalent to the issue of the dynamics of belief, namely by the following thing. The problem of induction or consideration, the problem of induction, that looks like a very large issue. So here are all my experiences from my childhood up to today. And now how do I project from all those experiences my entire world picture? Now that's a very grand question, as I said. So let's state that as a much smaller question. Here I am. I have already all my beliefs. I have my world picture. I know a lot of things and I conjecture a lot of things. So now I make a new experience. I learn something. I read something. I look into the world. I see something. Now how do I change my state of belief in response to that new experience? That's the revision problem, and it's a much smaller problem, because it's only a local problem. It's the question of the transition of a prior belief state to a posterior belief state caused by an experience. That's the revision problem, and that's obviously the dynamic issue. So that concerns the dynamics of belief. And the point is, the point is, the picture has just disappeared, but it's here again. The point is, the problem of induction and the problem of revision are equivalent problems, because I can imagine. I mean, if I start from some prior state, and now I make a series of experiences. So then I can apply the laws of revision continuously, step by step, and then in that way I can solve the problem of induction. Starting from some a priori state, and now adding all the experiences of my life, and then that will lead to some world picture. So that provides an answer to the problem of induction. And reversely, of course, if I have a proposal for how to solve the problem of induction, that is how to project the world picture from all my experiences, then of course I can also answer the local question, how to change my belief from one state of belief to the other, given a certain experience. And the point is, so thereby, by that equivalence, we have broken down this really grand issue of the problem of induction to the much smaller and better answerable issue, local issue of the problem of revision. And that's, so my goal is to have an answer for the problem of induction, but my path, my way is answering that grand problem by finding an answer to the small and local problem of revision. And that's why I focus in my book on the problem of revision, on the dynamics of belief.
picking up on the problem of induction, how this relates to justification, and how you want to solve the issue of induction with moving to the next step of revision.
I mentioned that Hume despaired of justification, but then for him justification was kind of simply logical deduction. So if you make a logical deduction, that's really a justified inference. And that was for him the only method of justification. And that was, of course, too narrow a notion of justification. And of course, the point now is when I ask for the dynamic step of changing a prior state of belief to a posterior state of belief due to an experience, then the issue is not how I actually do it. I mean, of course, that's also an issue, and that's interesting for biologists. How does the brain work? It's interesting for psychologists and so on. For cognitive psychologists, how does that actually work? But for the philosopher, the question is how should I change my beliefs in response to the experience? So for us, for the philosophers, it's a normative question. So the state of belief is not just something empirically given. A state of belief is something which is subject to the laws of rationality. Of course, we are answering as philosophers, we are answering the issue: what is reasonable belief and what is reasonable change of belief? And the problem precisely is to find answers there. And there are long arguments in philosophy. I mean, there have been proposed various rules of belief change, and then there are long arguments about the reasonableness or rationality of those proposals. So and I have my specific theory about that, and my specific arguments why it should reasonably work my way and not any other way. That is, not any other way. That's too strong a claim. But at least though my way is reasonable and more reasonable than many alternatives. That's my argument in the book.
You've touched upon there and tidied up issues of justification. Maybe at the end I will revert back to inductive logic, causation and regularity in Hume. But for the moment, how does truth relate to rationality and evidence?
As you recall, that was the topic of my Lakatos lecture in May. And as I mentioned there, I mean, that's about the deepest issue in theoretical philosophy. What is that connection? And and the first issue there is, of course, what's truth? I mean, we must first have an idea what truth may be in order to think about its relation to rationality. And now, truth theory, that's also a very old topic in philosophy. I mean, even the old Greeks already had a truth theory, and in a way they invented the just what everybody would have said. So in a way, I think it's not even a very original statement that the Greeks made. But of course, they already made it, namely what's nowadays called the so-called correspondence theory of truth, or in Latin, the adequatio intellectu ad rem. That means the fit of the mental states to the reality. Also, that might be an English translation of that. And the simple idea is that a belief or a statement or a claim is true if reality is as the statement claims or the belief thinks. False if reality is not that way. But that's somehow a trivial assertion, isn't it? Sure. But what does that mean? And so some people were at the loss about the informativity of that kind of truth definition or that correspondence theory of truth. I mean, there has emerged in the last 70 years a very detailed discussion about that correspondence theory and various variants, and then that's called the semantic theory of truth and such things. But if you don't discriminate very finely, these are all variations of the correspondence theory of truth. The problem with the correspondence theory of truth, which was felt for a long time, was that it opens the skeptical gap, the so-called skeptical gap. Yeah. So and the skeptical gap means, I mean, the question is, can we ever learn the truth? Yeah? Can we know the truth? And the skepticist says, oh no, that's always doubtful. Yeah. And it can always be